we are going to be talking about the infamous $750 paid in taxes point that was brought up. So, just like when Trump said grab him by the pussy, and that came out a couple of days before the Hillary presidential debates, I think this was an organized attack by the left media, which I'm happy with it, to be honest. I think they did a really good job putting out this 750 tax return, because I think they had it for a while, right before the presidential debates. And again, the theme of our coverage has kind of been that Biden just didn't take advantage of these moments. Biden did not say that you are a crook, you are a criminal, that you've got away with paying so little taxes, that there are school teachers who pay more taxes than you. He didn't have those rhetorical moments.
Well, he didn't make the school teachers thing, I think. I think the school teachers thing was like one line.
One line? Okay. So maybe
it was like a solid one-liner. And I was like, oh.
Nothing that really stood out to me. What stood out to me was Trump said, and this is when me and my sister looked at each other like, damn, this is a good point. Your administration gave all of the tax loopholes, particularly around depreciation and real estate. Trump's a big real estate guy. Basically, you can buy a property for a lot of money, say that it depreciated in value, and don't have to pay the difference in those millions of dollars that it depreciates, which reduces your tax burden a lot, to be able to say that your administration gave me those laws. So, David, at the point where Trump says your administration, which goes into the sort of 47 years of you doing nothing or doing the wrong thing, gave him the ability as a private citizen to be able to do what any private citizen wants to do, or any business person, which is pay the least amount in taxes, do you think he was able to appeal to a lot of Americans by saying, I did what was strategic because of you?
Yeah, and he actually said that. He was like, I believe at one point he said, I don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah.
He was literally like,
he said, as a private citizen, before I came to public, which was so stupid. It's like, before I became a president, I'd never wanted to pay taxes.
Yeah.
I was like, so now you want to pay taxes? Like what?
Like, in my mind, I didn't get it, but I was like, that's a human moment of just being like, I am somebody that works in my best interest. And the point of this is to say, I am somebody that works in my best interest, but I am not a criminal. Right. Which it's really been the stereotype that Trump has been fighting, right? It's just the you are a criminal stereotype. From the impeachment trials all the way till now, it's just the idea of Trump as a crook, a snake oil salesman, etc. is something that he's had to fight. And he's like, look, I'm just a man. A man that doesn't want to pay taxes, just like the rest of you. The only difference is I can take advantage of laws that Joe Biden creates.
I thought that was devastating, man. Because Joe didn't ever respond. He also sidewayed out of it. I forgot what he said, but I remember just watching the debate. He didn't answer because Trump plain asked me, "Why did you give me these loopholes?" Right? And I was watching another real estate developer yesterday talk about these. He's like, "The loopholes are ridiculous. It is amazing how many benefits they are." That was in the Obama administration.
Because we want to produce an incentive for development.
And Trump was like, that means if I'm employing millions of people at hotels and I don't have to pay taxes, that's basically a good thing. And any person with any common business knowledge would recognize the economic argument being made there. How do you think Biden should have capitalized in that moment? Do you think more kindergarten lines of teachers?
Maybe, but I think that the question around that is also one of it's like the specific thing that $750 line was about was in the context of income tax.
Yes.
And it was about the fact that Trump had reported losses such that his taxes would have been low. At some point, you have to mention the context of this, not just the number. Trump is like, I don't want to pay taxes. Fine. But if you intentionally start changing things such that you don't, that is crooked. Right? And that's where Biden had to focus. If you're going to sidestep, you don't sidestep out of the conversation altogether. You don't sidestep a transition out of the point. You sidestep into a version of it you like, which is, let's talk about the actual. We're not accusing you of not wanting to pay taxes.
Right.
We're accusing you of changing the dynamic so much that you have to pay less tax than a school teacher. I think that it's very, very likely, like any American can wrap their head around the fact that no matter how many incentives you're giving, if you are a self-proclaimed billionaire with hotels all over the world, you should have to pay more than $750 in income taxes.
Yeah.
No matter what the loopholes are, I can wrap my head around the fact that number is small, and especially as somebody that doesn't know the tax code, because let's assume a good 60% of Americans don't know the tax code.
More than 60%.
Right, I'm being generous. 60% don't know the tax code. Now, let's assume that 75% don't know how the tax code influences people at that income bracket. I'm still being generous.
Right.
At that point, for the normal average American, it is so easy for me theoretically to wrap my head around the fact that in order to get to that low of a number, you have to do something illegal.
Yes. So absolutely, that's a good point.
So that's me.
That's a good point.
That's me telling the half-truth.
Biden needs to hire us to coach his ass, bro.
I'm gonna let the American public. The way that I'm gonna handle this, if I'm Biden, is I'm truly going to let the American public believe what they want to believe.
Yep.
Even if Trump is technically telling the truth, that it is my fault, that there are loopholes, that he did not cheat the system. At the very least, he gamed the system. And I am going to get them to believe that those two offenses are somehow the same, because truly, that's what they want to believe. That's why the Trump tax return strategy was
weak, man. Because he said the same thing he said in 2015, which was that they're not done yet, which is the most idiotic shit I've ever heard of.
How long? H&R Block finishes my taxes in 3 hours tops. Like, I get it. I don't have as much money as you, but if the numbers come out relatively similar in terms of the income taxes.
Man, I know that I paid more than $750 in taxes last year. So
it took H&R Block 3 hours. It's taken your tax guys 5 years. Fire them.
And I get your shit is complicated, right? You got properties for 5 years, bro. Like, the hours that his accountants must be billing him must be ridiculous. Like, it's all a lie, right? So you're saying Trump needed to attack the character of someone because we agree you don't Biden. Because you don't. It's not that you're not taking advantage of the tax code. But the fact that you want to manipulate so much to the point where you pay less than $1,000 means that there is a crooked part of who you are. And here's the bigger part, and I want to get your take on this. How does that not influence you being the president?
Yeah, and that's the reason why that slippage, like, when I was a private citizen, I did this because I didn't want to pay taxes. Was the worst thing ever, because, like, you changed? First of all, you ran on the platform that you were going to be private in public office. Remember what Trump's commentary was? Yep. I'm going to run America the way I ran my business. I'm going to treat the American economy the way that I treated my finances. So if you treat it, if your platform is I'm going to be the same person, you can't then also pivot your entire point to be like, I'm a different man now. Those are the foibles of a slightly younger man. It's like, no, like, you are still the same person. You are as crooked as you were when you came in, and that's bad for the country. Your character matters when you are running to be the representative of the country. I think that's the way that you slip the punch in terms of, like, you set it up. It's like, I gave developmental incentives. You turned that into an opportunity to get rid of taxes. And
that's the thing. That's a really good point, because I think Biden then needed to answer your administration, right? So I think Biden needs to be logical. It's like, yes, we have incentives. And it's just, these are what we call strategic concessions in debate, where, like, you say you agree with one part of what your opponent said at the first part, and then you turn the premise of the argument in order for it to make sense with the concession. So he should have been like, yes, it's good for real estate developers to get some benefits because they do a lot for the country. However, the overarching manipulation of those incentives, which not only Trump does, but every billionaire does, is the problem. And because you are that person, we're not saying it's illegal, we're just saying it's immoral.
Right.
So get out of office at that point.
Oh,
right?
Here's the other thing. Is context and timing matters. When were those developmental programs brought in? They were brought in when the economy was at its, like, worst.
That's a good point.
We needed that at the time.
That is such a good rebuttal.
But you've exploited it. Like, it was $750 a year, which means you've exploited it past what was necessary in the first place. Now, Trump, like, here's the thing. If Trump wanted to, he could have gotten rid of those same codes. Yep. Remember, he got in office in 2017. But he did the same thing in 2018, 2019. Like, he did the same thing and kept those same loopholes in place. If Trump wants to be like, oh, it was my administration. Yeah, my administration came up with that, like, in 2015. You could have fixed it.
When we were recovering from a recession,
right?
Where we gave you those opportunities, you still manipulated it, so that gives us context. And you didn't do anything. If you thought it was so bad and that my administration gave you those benefits and you didn't do anything about it, then you never really cared about it.
Yeah. So now it's not about my administration. Like, and at the very least, that administration debate becomes a wash, and then the debate becomes recentered around: is Trump immoral for the extent to which he exploited the codes?
Yes.
Now, Trump will then obviously have a retort. It's like, I'm not immoral, I'm just smart.
Yes.
But that's a debate that he's ready for. Like, that's a debate that every Democrat's
ready for.
Yeah, that's a debate that every Democrat's ready for. Is Trump attempting to take things that are objectively bad and being like, these things are strategic and smart?
And that's where I think, that's where you just sit back as Biden and you let the American people think, like, do you want someone who says, I'm smart when it comes to not contributing to the police officer salaries that you care about so much?
Right.
Is that that's some rhetoric, right? Like, so you don't want your $750 is what's contributing to the firemen? oh, but you got all the law... Like, how does a law enforcement agency endorse you when you don't even pay taxes for 20 years to help them get the funds they need?
By the way...
That's the type of rhetoric I think would have worked.
By the way, your state taxes, like the actual place that takes your taxes, controls the largest law enforcement bureau, like, in the country.
New York City.
So
New York.
That's a double, maybe a triple.
Concrete jungle where you don't got to pay no goddamn taxes. That's if you're Trump.
Unless you're a school teacher.
Teacher.
So like I think that there was room to really hurt him there. But I think that as soon as Trump had a counterpunch, Biden.
That's what Trump is so good at, man.
Play defense, man.
Okay, let's transition to the SALT debate that ended up happening. So apparently the SALT provision is like something that is good for business, bad for everyday people. Trump repealed that in the tax cuts, which was like a good thing. Eventually, it turned into this thing where we talk about China, because now we're talking about literal salt. So like we'll transition to the China thing. Trump, what's his name? Biden said, "Art of the deal became art of the steal. China's been stealing from you." For someone who's decently kind of educated on what's going on in politics, I thought this argument just didn't make sense, because Trump's been fighting a trade war with China.
But what a fire rhyme.
What a fire what?
What a fire rhyme.
Rhyme? Yeah, but like there was no substance behind it.
You gotta give him that, man.
It was a good line.
Joe Biden is Drake's ghostwriter. He's got it in him for sure. But I'm just like, you gotta admit.
Don't disrespect Drake like that.
I'm gonna I said it specifically because you're here. But I mean,
he only had a couple of lines on.
Nope. No, don't you dare say this.
And he addressed this on the Diss Against Push. He said Q only did a couple lines. He was packing groceries and he looked.
Hey, but I think that at a fundamental level, part of what ended up being so weird was that like. The context matters, and this is what you were saying in the context of the trade war. It's like if the context matters, at a certain point, you also got to give leeway in terms of both the concessions and the offensive moves that were made in order to wage the trade war, right?
And then you're saying that's Trump's fault.
I don't know if I'm necessarily saying that that's Trump's fault, but I do feel as though at a certain point it undercuts Biden's message
about China being the art of the steal.
Yeah.
Because I think Trump's been saying, literally, China's been stealing from us. I'm trying to get our farm. That's why I was just like, this line is weird, because it's obviously pre-rehearsed. I don't think Biden's smart enough to think about that on the spot. But it's like...
It's also not... It's not too authentic of a line.
It's absolutely not. Like, saying shut up, man, was way more authentic and rhetorically powerful. So I think on the taxes thing, Trump got away with it, and Biden didn't blame him the way he needed to. And
just like the taxes.
Yeah. Just like taxes. And then on China, again, like I didn't even know why he brought that up, because Trump, I think, gets a lot of points for China. He's been hard on China.
Actually, most international people that hate China love Trump.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't fuck with China, man. Like, they just don't. Because China has some shady shit that they do when it comes to business.
Hey, one way or another, I think the taxes thing, so this is something that we haven't really talked about yet, but I think that it's worth talking about, is the future of these debates, right? So first and foremost, there are a lot of pundits, including myself. I don't really consider myself a pundit, but for these
we are officially political pundits.
Boom!
Wearing a hat and a pink shirt on a podcast.
Well, one way or another. Here's the thing. So I don't know if there is an incentive for these debates, and I think we'll talk about this more when we talk about demeanor.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's an incentive to continue these debates on either side, especially on Biden's side, because I don't know if it serves the purpose that Biden wants. But I think more than that is like, as a framework, like there's got to be some issues that carry on, right? There are going to be more issues, more things are going to come out. The political machine is churning on both sides, which means that they have things that are waiting. They have things waiting in the wings, the same way this tax thing came out a week before the first debate. There are things we haven't seen yet that are going to change dynamics and are going to become new issues that become new questions for whoever the next moderator is. Right. Maybe Chris Wallace again, maybe. But right. But you got to think this taxes thing will become a thing again. I don't know. I just
don't know if there's an impact to it, man.
Yeah,
because Trump, he was smart. He paid less taxes.
But they're fishing for something, and you got to think at some point that they're gonna try this again.
Grab him by the pussy couldn't get I don't know what the hell taxes is gonna do. Because this is what I'm saying. Hillary had the setup right before the first debate.
Because we care more about money than women.
Yeah, but
in this country we do.
But I think most people agree with Trump in terms of how smart he was in not paying taxes. I get what you're saying, though. Most average working people are like, this bullshit. But a lot of his supporters are blue-collar workers who pay more than $750 in taxes. And they really can't afford to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's just such a weird paradox that he just gets to get away with because of the aura of Trump. Like,
yeah. I really do think in addition to that, the race thing and the COVID thing will become
bigger things.
Parts of it. I don't know if the development of the Supreme Court is going to change how people think very much, but yeah, I think that it's worth noting what issues will become like further things. In debate, we have a concept called iterative testing, right? Where you read something, somebody reads a response, and then you go and make your argument better and bring it back.
Right.
Iterative testing will be a function of a lot of these debates if there are future ones, because I think both Trump and Biden, at least their teams, should take this debate as an opportunity to learn a lot about how these debates are going to go down, the perception of the American public, and how they need to maneuver in order to make their most offensive points stronger and in order to mitigate their opponent's most offensive points.